The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on a Wednesday. Beautiful day today. Oh my gosh. Awesome. It's starting to feel like fall. Temperatures cooling off, especially at night. The leaves are starting to change up high, really high up in the mountains. So it's upon us. And we already know football is here. And it's a great time of the year with college football, high school football, NFL. You got the hunt for October in Major League Baseball, wild card race. It changes every day. It's a great time of the year right now. NBA training camps are not that far away. I love it. It's one of the best times of the year for me when it comes to sports. Just because everything's just new and there's all this excitement and anticipation.
It's nice because, do you remember like in July, we'd look at each other and think, man, what are we going to talk about? Because, I mean, luckily, Utah Jazz were active in free agency, and that helped us out. But then after that, in the latest qualifying games of Quidditch, the one. I mean, but now, I mean, and like you said, come October, I don't know how we're going to fit it all into 2 hours. Aggie football, Jazz basketball preseason starts first weekend of October. Oh my gosh, they start the weekend of when LSU faces Utah State. That's their first preseason game. Oh my gosh.
Do they have their preseason games already out?
Yeah.
Scheduled?
Yeah, so they have they're going to play the two Australian teams, right? The 36ers and then one other squad. I need to make sure that I have this.
Well, when we get closer, we'll get in.
But I'm just saying, like, I mean, they'll have, like, all these preseason games, but I mean, their first game at home is October 5th against an Australian squad. So you'll have that, LSU playing Utah State, and then they get right into Mountain West Conference play the following week. As you already noted, baseball in October is nuts. I mean, another level of baseball in entirety. And then, of course, NFL football, other college football games, and so it's full gear. In just, takes it up another notch. So we're excited. I'm excited about it.
Hey, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we spent maybe too much time yesterday talking about mascots, but we've had a lot of...
The one guy on Facebook thought so, at least.
Yeah, somebody on Facebook didn't like it. But we had a lot of other people chime in afterwards, kept sending us, hey, did you know about these guys? Or did you know about this school? The question for me that kept coming up is, what if they didn't have firearms? The Rebels and the Cowboys. What if they didn't have firearms? What if the Spartan or Aztec or Warriors, what if they didn't have their weapon?
Oh, then it's the wolf pack in or out. Look, if you have no weapon, that wolf is, I mean, you'd already taste blood. He's going right after your legs. Yeah, and if he swipes the leg, right?
See,
sweep the leg, wolf.
I'd go for the Aggie Bull.
Why? No.
All it takes is one
dipped
head with
quick.
those horns,
the
and
wolf
that wolf goes
it's
flying.
Getting the horns there. The wolf is more shiftier, faster, quicker, better flexibility. Dude, the wolf in a route.
Just one kick of the hind legs.
One bite to the leg, dude. That thing's going down.
The wolf's going to get crushed.
And if you can chop the bull down to the ground, oh, man. You're having roast beast for dinner.
Somebody said, who wins between the Lobos and the wolf pack?
Oh, wolf pack.
Hashtag deep thoughts.
Not deep for me. I still take the wolf pack. Hey, okay, and by the way, I want to know, because when we got off the air, and a couple of friends saw me the other night, or last night, and they said, dude, how did y'all know what a piston was? Come to work today, a couple coworkers, you really didn't know what a piston was? No! Okay, unless you're from Detroit or an all-American American, you don't know what a piston is. In India, we had camels.
Stop.
Okay?
Stop.
And they didn't have an engine. They went at 0.1 miles per hour. They took their sweet time.
Isn't there a school called the Fighting Camels? I think there is.
No, there's not.
I can't remember which school it is. Yeah, it is, really. So today, it's a Wednesday. It's In the Know Wednesday. We really want to get ourselves better educated about Utah State's opponents upcoming. Utah State was on the road this Saturday. They're going to San Diego to take on the Aztecs. And by the way, does an Aztec have mythical powers?
Yes.
I digress. So anyway, Utah State taking on San Diego State. And what are the coaches saying from both schools? What are the players saying from both schools about the matchup, about what might happen Saturday night? Plus, coming up next hour, you don't want to miss this, their play-by-play voice, Ted Leitner. He'll be joining us, not from San Diego. He'll be joining us from Milwaukee.
Yeah. What's
he doing in Milwaukee?
He's also the play-by-play voice of the San Diego Padres. Does an incredible job, by the way. He'll be calling that game in Milwaukee. So my question is, does he travel for those baseball games, come back and call the Aztecs game, and then go back on the road to catch the Padres?
Oh, he'd have to. That's a lot of travel.
That's a heck of a schedule.
That's
if he's married,
travel.
I'll have to ask him, man. How do you keep your wife? Like, hey,
how do you juggle
I'll
that?
see you in about a year. Oh, no, that's awesome. No, yeah, Ted does a great job. He's been on our show a couple times. I had him on last year during basketball season. You had him on before that, so this will be this is nothing new for us, but it's always great to have someone of his knowledge and of his caliber and his talent join us here on the show. So that'll be at 5:00.
Yeah, he's always been very gracious with his time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because I texted him yesterday, and he got back to me late, but he said, "Hey, I'm available. I am in Milwaukee, so I need to get off by this." And we're like, "Well, by all means, we aren't going to keep you from your pregame with the Padres. We don't want to do that." Eric, we have so much audio that we're actually going to split it. So we'll do some today, some tomorrow. We're going to make sure you're filled in better than anybody else can fill you in on who the San Diego State Aztecs are. You've done some great research on it. I've been trying to fill myself in on this team. Really interesting on both aspects, offensively and defensively. Coach Long, when you hear his audio, can we put a disclaimer on this? Coach Long, if you've never seen USU football and you would listen to Coach Long, you think that USU is a top 5 team.
College football playoff contender.
And that Jordan Love is going to be the first pick in the NFL draft.
Right, second coming of Joe Montana.
He is. Yeah, he's the savior of the New York Jets or the Miami Dolphins.
That could be his fate. That could be his fate.
That is according to Coach Rocky Long. You'll hear from him. We got a lot of audio from him. Great stuff. And, of course, from Ryan Agnew and Cheatham, their defensive guy, on what their thoughts on this Utah State team is. And, Eric, it's crazy to think that from last year, for so many years, and San Diego State for a while, that they had one back. Well, Daniel Thompson, Marshall Falk, the list goes on. That you're like, all right, that's the one guy we need to stop. This year... Well,
Rashad Penny.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about him.
They've had a lot of dudes that have gone on and had great careers in the NFL.
Well, this year, they have the running back who's hurt, so they have 2 guys who come in. They're now, they're over 100 yards in rushing. And they're studs, and that's what makes when you ask Gary about it, it's like, hey, that's San Diego State in a nutshell. They will run. That's what they like to do. Which is, by the way, I can't be grateful enough because it's an 8:30 game Pacific time. I'm so grateful that they are a running team. And later on, you'll hear Rocky
8:30 Mountain Time.
Oh man, dude, see, I can't do it.
7:30 Pacific time. But still,
you know what I'm talking about.
It's a late game. Right. If it's a running team, that clock's going to move.
I can't wait. So Coach Gary Anderson talks about their running game and the depth they have and the talent that's on the squad.
Same thing you always see out of San Diego State in the run game. Big, powerful offensive line, bunch of good tight ends, and a good scheme. That's the biggest thing, whether they're in 3 wides and 1 back, or they're in 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends or 2 tight ends and one of them's a fullback. They're good football schemes. They got good players. The backs are exceptionally good side-to-side, tough kids, run the ball. That reputation for having running backs at San Diego State has been there for a long, long time, and it's there again this year. So, and y'all know my opinion on that. It's nice to have 2 or 3 backs. It's hard to have just one guy that you're going to hand it to all the time. He's really special if he can handle that. But I think that this all 3 of those guys rolling through there are quality backs, and the key thing is they've got people around them, players and a coaching staff that gives them an opportunity to make plays.
So when they have 3 backs, is it usually based on what they can do individually, or is it based on depth and to be able to keep them fresh?
Scheme hasn't really changed regardless. I'm sure there's a little bit of a mindset on what those kids may do best. But you don't sit there and say, okay, here's this back in this situation, and he's a young guy, so they're doing this, and it changes schemes or doesn't do anything like that. They all, run the plays that they run. And a lot of it's inside the tackle box, but then when they get outside and they run outside, they're outside zone, their toss plays, all those things, they're very well adapted to be able to run them all. So the scheme has not changed at all versus which back's been in the game.
They are extremely talented. All 3 backs are. Jordan Bird has 37 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chance Bell, 23 carries, 142 yards, and a TD. And Washington, 42 carries, 111 yards, no TDs. By the way, Agnew and Jasmine are also at times very known for their, get out of the pocket, scramble, and get the few yards. So watch out for them as well.
Yeah, so Jordan Bird is he's a sophomore. He's played in 3 games. He actually has more yards than anybody, though he's not necessarily the featured back. Juwan Washington is their featured back. He's got an ankle injury. They're not sure if he's going to be available. He didn't practice on Monday. And so the latest report is that he was limited in practice just the other day. So they're not sure if he's going to be healthy or not and be available against the Aggies. As you talked about, Chase Jasmine, he's a junior, and he re-injured his right ankle in the New Mexico State game as well, but he has been practicing, but he's not 100%. So they've got some injuries. Actually, a lot of players on that squad have had ankle injuries. San Diego Tribune says seemingly half the team is limped on a bad ankle at one time or another since fall camp began 7 weeks ago. But they have, so their main running back, Juwan Washington, as you mentioned, did not play last week, but they still had 2 dudes that ran for over 100 yards each. So this is definitely a power run team. Maybe not necessarily power run, but run heavy. They love to run the ball, and they're very, very good at executing what they want to do, controlling the clock, controlling the play and the flow of the game with a strong running game and a strong running presence. What's different about this year's team, and that's been usually the MO of San Diego State, strong running game, emphasis on that, controlling the clock, controlling possessions, limited opportunities for the other team to do anything. But what's different is that they have been more involved in the passing game this year. Agnew is their quarterback, and he's had a couple of games. He was kind of quiet last week. Didn't really need him to do much. The lead they had in the first half, he basically didn't attempt hardly anything in the second half. They just ran the ball and ran the clock to get the game over with.
Yeah, I wish they didn't need to. And really, that's their key. In fact, you'll hear from Coach Long here later on in the hour, in the second hour. He talks about they want to run the ball. That is what they do. Their goal is to keep USU's offense off the field for as long as possible, because he feels like when that offense gets on the field, it's go, 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 and then your defense is exhausted. And so, yeah. In fact, here's Coach Long. He's talking about the running game. Do you have that? Maybe.
Is Coach Long talking about the running game?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Here is Coach Long talking about the running game and the 3 backs and what they see in them.
Well, number one, hopefully Juwan gets well and he can play this week and be near 100%. He's not right now. He practiced a little bit yesterday, but he wasn't 100%, so I don't know what he'll be like today. I thought going into the season that one of our deepest positions, even you guys thought one of our deepest positions on our team was running back. Thank goodness for that. because we've got a couple running backs hurt, and we still have 3 healthy ones that are pretty good players. So hopefully they'll continue to perform at that level so that we can run the ball and run the clock and keep their offense off the field.
And get out of there early. I mean.
So Juwan Washington has an ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if he'll be available. Chase Jasmine re-injured his ankle in the New Mexico State game, though he has participated in practice a little bit this week. Junior transfer running back Greg Bell, he's been sidelined with an undisclosed injury before camp began, and he's not expected to be available. So that's what he's referring to. It looked like he were going to be really deep at running back, but they've had a lot of injuries at that position, and which is, I think, to some degree, maybe motivated Agnew to try to be more active.
Yeah. So is Chance Bell out then? Is that right?
Well, this says Greg Bell, and I don't have the full roster.
I do right here.
See if there's a 2 Bells that are listed as running backs.
Nope, I have one. Chance Bell.
Okay, so maybe because Chance Bell has done some things.
Oh, okay. So
because Chance Bell has played in 3 games.
Yeah, they have a Chance Bell, a Greg Bell, and a Daniel Bell. So it is Greg Bell who's a running back. Yep, number 33. So that's fun. Oh.
But it looks like Greg Bell is still out. Chance Bell has done some things. He's a sophomore.
My question to you, Eric, is if they do get Washington back, which I would imagine, just this is my opinion, it's not fact or anything, so take it for the gospel coming from Ajay. But if Washington is able to play, they are going to utilize that running game until they are dog dead tired. Because if they can have Washington back and still have the 3 other backs and keep it fresh, they'll do it. I mean, as long as they possibly can let that car and that piston run, they'll use it as much as possible to make, because they really are dead serious about that. I think you'll hear Cheatham talk about it at some point. I can't remember, I didn't label it correctly, but Cheatham actually talks about it too, about just keeping USU's offense off the field, like how imperative that is.
Oh, it's what you heard Rocky Long just yeah. They're going to play a long game.
I'm just serious. They're dead set on that.
They're going to play keep away.
Yep, they are more than happy to run the clock and keep the possessions as few as possible for Utah State's offense.
Possessions will be a premium for the Aggies.
Yep, absolutely.
So on their depth chart, which they've released this week, this is earlier in the week, Juwan Washington is listed as their starter, but we still don't know if he's going to play.
Well, maybe that's Ted later on tonight, huh?
Chase Jasmine is also there, and then they have 3 other Ors. Or Chance Bell, or Keegan Williams, or Jordan Bird. But when you look at all of them, none of them are big, stout, power run guys. They're all smaller in stature, shifty, and speedy.
That's what Coach Henner was saying in his quote, that when we just played, that it's not usually based on what a running back can do. It's based on the scheme of the offense itself. And that's what can make it so tough for them. So, again, the running game for San Diego State is going to be key. Possessions, like you said, are a premium for Utah State's offense. So making those possessions count, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, every single time is going to be so important. A lot of people say, well, yeah, they're going to put up 45, 50. They won't, not because they can't, but that because they're going to be limited. I mean, I can't remember how many possessions we had versus Wake Forest, at least in the first half. It was quite if I remember, it was a few though. I don't know if you maybe cut that in half, and that's what you might get against San Diego State.
Yeah, they're going to try to control this game from the start. And so for Utah State, that the premium will be on that run defense. Mm-hmm. That front 7, how well are they going to be able to fill the gaps, give them less than 2 yards, less than 3 yards on attempts, and try to bottle that up so that they just don't get those big explosive runs on them or keep those drives alive. But as I was mentioning earlier, this is a team in San Diego State that has developed a bit of a passing game this year. Their quarterback, Ryan Agnew, He's been there for a little while. He's a returning senior. He's been there for a few years, been part of their team, and part of their success against UCLA was in their passing attack. Not so much, they did have some success on the ground, but most of it was through the air, which San Diego State is not always known to have great quarterbacks and great wide receivers, though they use them strategically. But this is a team that has been known to be passing the ball a little bit more early on in the season. Gary Anderson talked a little bit about that in their passing game, how Aggies have to watch out for that this season.
Both. A little bit of play action, some drop back. I think he's a winner. I think he's proven that he is a kid that puts his team in a position he makes heady plays when he needs to make heady plays. I think he's very good in the pocket as far as picking his spots to step up in the pocket and when to run. He's done a nice job of getting out and breaking down and breaking containment or breaking the middle of the pass rush lanes down and getting out and doing some real positive things for his team. They got boots, they got play actions, they'll take shots down the field. Again, it's the structure of the offense to put him in a spot to be able to make a lot of the throws that he makes that may not have the big try to take the top off you, but they've done that, and they've got those throws in there, and I guarantee that more of those are coming as they evolve this offense that they're doing. They're just, they haven't been as much spread as they were early in the year. Much 11 personnel, I guess, three wide receivers and one tight end. It's become more, San Diego State style with we're going to punch you in the mouth and take play action shots and the boot game and play action things. Well, there's so many moving parts up front, and they're not just dial up a twist game or what have you. They're very well thought out. It's not a lot of heavy pressure all the time. It's thought out coverage back behind it, and they move those defensive linemen around a lot and have them run a lot of twist games. They're very good at them. They're athletic, and they play with people off the ball that can run and are very good tacklers. So it's Rocky's defense have always been very, very physical, good tacklers. They got good speed, and they play well together. And that's some people sometimes think there's a lot of deception and just bobbing and weaving in there. Well, there is, but it's very well thought out. And he's a tremendous coach, and they recruit good players in those positions. So it makes it tough to run the ball. And they get so many negative plays. They catch you behind the line of scrimmage. They tip a pass. They pop a gap on you in those situations, in those settings. So it's difficult to prepare for, and hopefully our offense can do a nice job of protecting the quarterback and getting something going in the run game. I think is a huge part of this game for us.
That's a heck of an analysis right there.
Yes.
He's right. The one thing that stood out to me, Eric, in that comment is the play action. If San Diego State can develop a run game that is effective and productive, then they can bring out the play action game, fake the run, and a lot of things. There'll be a lot of options too. If you can develop, and it's this game. You talked about the front seven. I'm going to talk about the backfield of the defensive group, because if they do provide a good play action, I don't know, if the run game is effective and they have great play action, the defensive backs cannot bite. They cannot get greedy. You have to be so disciplined and making sure you know where that ball is at all times. Because if you bite even just a little bit, that gives plenty of daylight for Agnew to look to make a good throw. He's very accurate. He can make throws in tight windows and tight spots. And if you bite on this play action stuff, and if you go too hard and get too greedy, they're going to kill you. They're going to eat you alive with that. And so the defensive backfield's going to have to be really on their toes.
He doesn't have a lot of experienced weapons around him.
No.
Most of the wide receivers are all really young and inexperienced. His top targets so far this year have been Kobe Smith, who's a 6'2", 190-pound sophomore, and Jesse Matthews, who's a 6', 190-pound redshirt freshman. So there's not a lot of experience in that wide receiver core for him to throw to, but they're making it work. And those are the guys that he's targeting, and he's trying to get the ball to. They do have an experienced tight end, Parker Houston. They haven't used him a lot, 4 catches for only 29 yards on the year, but he is a senior, and so he's one of the more experienced guys there, but it seems like they're using him a little bit more in that run packages, but he is somebody that can flare out there and be somebody that can catch the ball. He does occasionally throw the ball out of the backfield to the running backs. He's thrown some to Washington and to Bird. Chase Jasmine as well has caught one pass on the season, but occasionally they'll use the running backs in kind of the screen game as well. So interesting situation developing in San Diego State where they have an experienced quarterback, not very experienced wide receiver core, but they are going to those wide receivers, and he is trying to give them some opportunities.
That's the thing is, even if you have an experienced quarterback, I think that puts you in good shape. I mean, to a degree, Utah State doesn't have an experienced receiving core, but they have a great quarterback who's now spent one full season as the Aggies quarterback. So, and that's benefited the Utah State Aggie offense. I think that's the same in this regard. He's had some experience, not a lot, but enough to where I think he can make this offense better. It's just the defense that can cause problems, which I think Utah State should and can.
Since we're still talking about the offense, looking at their line, what does their line look like? It's an experienced line.
Yes, it is.
Guys with a fair number of starts and a lot of experience.
First one that they've played that's experienced. Yeah, I know, albeit 2 games in, but this is about as experienced as they've seen so far.
Yeah, you've got juniors and seniors all over that line, except with the exception of right guard, where William Dunkel is listed as the starter. He's a redshirt freshman, but Jacob Jimenez, who is a transfer, could get some playing time. He hasn't started, but he is a little more experienced. So, and right tackle, not as much experience there either. So on the right side of the line is where they're maybe a little bit more prone and a little bit weaker with that offensive unit for San Diego State. Coming up here next a little bit, we'll get some thoughts about the defensive side of San Diego State. What are the coaches and players saying about the Aztecs? It's an In the Know Wednesday here on the Full Court Press. And coming up next hour, we'll hear from somebody who follows this team very closely. Ted Leitner, who is a play-by-play voice of the Aztecs. He'll join us coming up at about 5 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. Coming up on the Full Court Press.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen, getting you ready for Utah State at San Diego State. Our sister station, KVNU, will begin KVNU Game Day at 6:30 on Saturday. Al Lewis, Craig Hislop, they'll break it down, give you insight like no one else can. Always great perspective and history that those guys bring to every broadcast. So stay tuned for that on Saturday. And as soon as the game concludes, turn your radio back on. KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, streaming online, kvnutalk.com. We'll have KVNU Aggie call afterwards to take your phone calls and react to what happened in San Diego. Some interesting notes about the offense before we shift to the defense for the Aztecs. They returned 7 starters, which includes their senior quarterback, Ryan Agnew, sophomore wide receiver, Ethan Dedeaux, though he really hasn't been much of a target as of yet this season. 1 catch for 8 yards. Junior center Keith Ismail, senior left guard Deshaun Dixon, junior center Dominic Gudino, senior tight end Parker Houston, and senior running back Juwan Washington. But as mentioned, the right guard and right tackle position, in the 2 deep for both of those positions on the offensive line, all of those guys are new. Either they were redshirt guys last year or they're transfers, but all those guys are new on the right-hand side of their offensive line. But this is a team that likes to do a lot of different things on the ground, and This is from a Utah State defensive perspective. Chris Unga weighed in a little bit on how that Utah State defensive line doesn't want to let other people get in there and make things happen. There's going to be a lot on them Saturday. Fualelua, he's out. So how do they fill that gap? How do some of the other guys fill in? How do they handle that the very talented run attack that San Diego State likes to do and trying to not allow other teams to make plays?
You know, sometimes it's in our best interest to do our job, and our job isn't always making plays. It's, allowing the backers to, do their responsibility, being free and whatnot, and us taking up blocks. But yeah, of course, we would like to make plays, and hopefully these upcoming games we do so.
Yeah, here's the thing: is that with Utah State football, the way it's designed now is it's called assignment football. So you're not just going to go out there and expect everyone to have a free for all to do whatever they want. That there's only a couple of guys. In fact, there's only really one guy that I know of that's allowed to do it. and that's David Woodward. So in really the defensive line is there to create opportunities. If not get a tackle for a loss, create other opportunities for your three linebackers to go in there and make something happen, or at least disrupt the pass. Just something into that regard. But yeah, and they're talented. They're going to need to, like you said, in regards to the run game, it's going to really have to be on that front group to go in and make something happen. But then when the play action does come into play, and it will, whether it's by force or by circumstance, it's going to, then the defensive backfield is going to have to do their job.
Okay, so there's been some question about the health of USU's secondary, right? I mean, there's been some guys that we were hoping could be there and have been injured, haven't been able to be a full 100% in games just yet. And the team kind of got burned at Wake Forest with the secondary a couple different times. Thought they've been getting better. Obviously, it's hard to really tell because of the competition they've gone up against since then. But Gary Anderson did address the health of his secondary and if he gets any extra defensive backs available this weekend.
No, I don't. At this point, I think we'll have the guys we have, and we may get one back. We'll see how we go through the week of practice. But we're just we'll go with the guys that we got out there, and they're working hard to get themselves back on the field. And I would say it's we did take advantage and got healthy in a couple spots. Some guys are a little bit dinged up, probably wouldn't have missed a game, but they should feel better, assuming they've done their part and taken care of their bodies.
By the way, he was asked about Peasley. He has no comment on that. If he does, it's going to come from Mike Williams, the head trainer. So don't plan on a comment from Coach Anderson unless he feels it's really necessary.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
That secondary can play an important role in not giving Agnew openings to throw to.
Because he's accurate. Like I said, he can throw in tight windows with no problem at all. Right. Did it against UCLA on a couple of really good throws.
He's an experienced quarterback. It'll be hard to confuse him a lot.
Yeah, you've seen it. But if you can mix it up a little bit, disguise your blitzes, disguise what you're doing, kind of throw him off the rocker, it will buy you some time.
So shifting the gears a little bit, shifting to the other side, flipping the field. Utah State offense versus San Diego State defense. This is
going to be the battle.
This is the battle.
Oh, man.
Rocky Long and some of their players, all they wanted to do was talk about how great Jordan Love is. And
how
you think, as you said, you think this is a second coming of...
Yeah, really.
Joe Montana.
I'm a huge Jordan Love fan. You are as well. All our listeners are. Unless you're from Provo, then you think Zach Wilson's the next prophet. But man, Rocky Long, I don't know. Sometimes you lose credibility when you compliment a guy too much. I think he might have done it here, with all due respect.
Pouring it on a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's two parts to this.
Yeah, there is. So he was asked about. In fact, you know what? He wasn't even asked about Jordan Love in this first part. He was just asked about the USU offense, and then he just went off about Jordan Love. The second part, he strictly asked about Jordan Love, and then he just goes on about Jordan Love again.
Okay, here's Rocky Long, his first comments about Jordan Love, unsolicited.
Well, he's a big, strong guy that can do things with his feet, but he doesn't usually have to. He's got a great accuracy, but it looks like he throws effortlessly. And he just kind of flicks the ball, and he completes the ball 50 yards down the field. So he's a very talented young man that played really well last year and has started off playing really well so far this year, too.
Hey, can you go to the opening statement of USU? I think it's pretty good, and it's kind of telling of how he's going to go throughout this press conference of Coach Long. He talks about, in his opening statement, he immediately hits on to, he doesn't even talk about the 3 games, or he doesn't even talk about the last week's game. It's all USU, and it's all about where they start and how they look offensively.
Will this be advantage of USU offense versus SDSU defense?
No, this would be Rocky Long's opening statement on USU. Well, while you're looking for it, Coach Long was very...
Oh, there it is. You labeled things differently. Some are labeled Long, some are labeled Rocky. Okay, I found it now. Thank you.
It's the same frickin' thing.
It's Rocky Long opening statement.
Utah State's obviously one of the better teams in our league. They have outstanding players, some outstanding players coming back from last year, and they had a great year last year. Quarterback's an NFL guy. How high he's getting drafted, no one knows. I've heard all the way from the first round to the third round, but they've got an NFL quarterback. Their statistics are eye-popping. They're gaining over 600 and something yards a game and scoring over 48 points a game. So they're an awful good football team coming in here, so we have our work cut out for us.
Sure do.
Yep. So do you think, okay, besides the awkward silence, do you think that saying things like this where you have a player who the opposing team, they're trying to hype him as a Heisman contender, everybody's talking about how he's a high draft pick, he's going to be a guy that be an NFL type, does that give extra motivation to opposing defenses to try to get after him and knock him down?
No. I mean, you can't go out there and be like, well, we think Jordan Love's a mediocre quarterback, and we think that, Utah State's, they lost to a Power 5 team, one of the very few Mountain West Conference teams to do so, so that tells you all you need to know about. He can't say that, but at the same time, you got to kind of balance it. You understand how great of a player Jordan Love really is, how great of an offense this really is, how good of a defense this definitely is, and you recognize that. I remember when I was the equipment manager for Utah State football in 2004, and that just machine of a Utah Utes football team came into our house and was up 41-0 at halftime. And I remember the week of that, the press conference, like Mick Dennehy was just praising Utah like they were the Miami Hurricanes of 1992. Like they were the greatest thing that ever touched Romney Stadium, ever at the time, Romney Stadium. Like he was just so enamored by how they look and how they ran, and they were a good football team, absolutely. And I finally looked at the person, I'm not going to mention his name, but we were sitting in the car, and I was like, man, this guy's really hyping up Utah, like, more than he probably should. And he says, well, we'll find out why come this Saturday. They were out 41-0 at halftime, and I was like, man, McDennehy wasn't lying either. and that's the thing. Like, look, we all kind of make fun of it, but do you remember when Tennessee Tech's coach last year was like, well, yeah, our number ones, we could do it versus our number twos. We do it daily, so we're used to it. And then they were down like 65-0 at halftime or something like that. And then you go into halftime and you're thinking, well, that's what that looks like, huh? Rocky Long understands how good of a football team this is, and he's going to praise them. And it's not to be like, hey, I'm talking to you, defense. This guy's the greatest ever. It's because he really does think that. There's actually sincerity in there. He's not like Bob Davey is.
Ooh, shot to Bob Davey.
So
this reminds me, it feels very similar to 2015, which has me very, very nervous. Utah State just came off of a win over Boise State And everybody was talking like Utah State has now reached the top of the Mountain West. They are the pinnacle. They're going to go all the way. They're going to win the championship. And there was still like a month to play of football or more. And that next Monday, Rocky Long in his press conference was like, well, I guess you all have crowned them as the champions, basically. And they're really good. And boy, I don't know if we can compete against those guys. Because he was reading all of the hype and just talking about how good USU is. It makes me nervous hearing him this week. It sounds very similar to how he sounded back in 2015. And that following Saturday, they embarrassed the Aggies.
Well,
48-14.
Oh, I got to be really careful.
So
how
is this team?
Well,
is this team this year
yeah.
better than that team was? That
I got to be really careful how I phrase this.
This team this year definitely has a better quarterback.
Well, look, when was the last time we had beaten Boise State like that thoroughly? I mean, honestly.
It hadn't happened.
Exactly. So I think there was this like high riding wave, and then we lost our surfing board and just crashed right back into the water deep, way too deep for us, and got crushed by it. And that might have been some thanks to the coaching staff who might have been, hey, yeah, we're the real deal. Absolutely. We're the real deal, and watch out for us because here we come.
We're all going to get paid.
And then things went south in a hurry. Gary Anderson will not let his team or coaching staff do that. There is absolutely, positively no way that that's going to happen with head coach Gary Anderson at the helm. And I'm not trying to diss on Coach Wells. I'm trying not to. I'm just saying, based on the fact that Coach Anderson understands how good this team is, that they haven't won in San Diego yet, he'd love to be the guy to go, yeah, you know what? I went to San Diego State and we beat him for the first time. I was the head coach of that ball, not for him, but for his team. That's what it means. And I think Coach Anderson is not egocentric about that stuff. It's more about, hey, we need to go out there, start 1-0 in conference, and go from there. But yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. Rocky Long is very sincere in complimenting Utah State, their team, their coaching staff. But I don't think it does any harm to Utah State. I don't think it does any good for them either. They could care less because the only thing that matters is on the field execution, score at the end of the game. And that's what they're focused on. Because, by the way, at this press conference, to kind of open the veil up for everybody, at this press conference, when they were asked about a bye week, Coach Anderson maybe spent about 20 seconds on it, less than that, and then was straight into San Diego State the rest of the time. There was one question asked about the bye week. He was very quick on his answer, respectful and quick, and then went right into San Diego State. When Chris Unga was asked about it, there was an opening statement about a bye week. He said, well, it was good to have it. We're on to San Diego State. Let's get ready. When Bryant was asked about it, same thing. He was just wanting to talk about San Diego State, that's all. These kids, this coaching staff, this team, they are just locked in on the Aztecs. That is all that matters to them because, by the way, you want to start off 1-0, especially for Utah State, especially considering the schedule they have.
Yes.
Especially for San Diego State, because if they start off 1-0, they got a pretty lenient schedule the rest of the way.
Oh, well, I don't know about the rest of the way, but
it's not as grueling as Utah State's, though.
San Diego State's?
Yes.
Okay. But for USU, this is a huge game. Big opportunity because they haven't been able to win at San Diego before. And so is that any added motivation? Is that extra talk? Chris Unga kind of put that to bed earlier this week that, look, it doesn't matter that we haven't won out there before. They want to go get the win this week.
To be honest, I don't really get into, statistics like that. I take it one game at a time. Whatever game's in front of me, I don't really, know the history. I've heard it a couple times that, we never beat them before. Well, one time, but long time ago. But honestly, it doesn't really motivate me. Every game is, the same to me. I take every game at its peak. No lows, no highs. To put it together, just all one mentality for me.
going to be the message this week. That will be the message this week. Look, we just want to be 1-0 in conference play. We'll worry about Colorado State next week, but this is what we need to worry about this week. And for San Diego State on the other side, Cheatham and Agnew kind of agreed to that. That look, yeah, it's we understand how big of a game it is because based on the rest of our schedule, but right now it's focused all on the Aggies.
We definitely understand the importance of this game. Everyone saw how good Utah State was last year. They brought back a lot of guys, this year, and they played well up to this point. Their offense averaging over 640 yards a game. Their defense has some, all-American type of players, and Woodard and Tipigalia. So we understand the importance of this game. We understand how good this football team is. And we know going into a bye week, if you can go in 1-0 in conference rather than 0-1, it's going to be really good. It's going to be a really good boost going into the rest of conference play. And, we're going to do everything we can to go 1-0.
I'd have to agree. I think it'd be a big help. Coach Long told us the other day, at the end of the day, though, it doesn't make or break our season. It's just another step on the road to getting where we want to go, which is winning 22. And at the end of the day, that's all really concerned about is getting to the end goal. The process is the process, and you have to maintain that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily make our season or break our season.
1-0, that's all teams. That's what either of these teams want. One of the biggest conference games of the week. Air Force and Boise State are right alongside that one as well. But like you said, if Utah State can get 1-0 and then hopefully take down Colorado State, you're 2-0 going into Death Valley for LSU, which has no effect on you at all whatsoever in regards to conference play. Go there, play your guts out, give it what you can against a great LSU team. Come back ready, gear up for the rest of the Mountain West Conference stretch, which will be a big one. So can't wait, man. Saturday night, 7:30 Mountain Time. No, 8:30 Mountain. Gosh, dang it, man. I'm going to San Diego too, and I'm gonna
write on a post-it and staple it to your forehead.
Dude.
More from coaches and players getting you in the know on a Wednesday here in the Full Court Press. Coming up next hour, we'll hear from their play-by-play voice. Ted Leitner will join us from Milwaukee, where he is there to call the San Diego Padres baseball game. He's also play-by-play voice for the Padres. So we'll get his perspective on the Aztecs and Utah State heading toward competition coming up this Saturday. And more on In the Know coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
For me personally, I was a freshman when I first played, so I was very young and didn't know much of the game at the time. But now, as being experienced as I am, I say that we have the physicality at the D line to go and throw blows with them. So I think we have a good shot at that.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen. That was Chris Unga talking about the defensive line needing to be physical. He remembers what it was like last time Utah State played them. That would have been back in 2016 when they came to Logan.
He's a freshman, man.
Absolutely, that USU defensive line, there's a lot on them to fill those gaps and take away any running opportunities for that shifty and fast San Diego State running back core. A lot of different guys that they use. A lot of them are nursing ankle injuries. Even Keegan Williams has been slowed by an ankle injury. So pretty much everybody in that running back room has some kind of an injury that they're nursing. Didn't seem to bother them too much last week. But again, they were going up against New Mexico State, so take that for what it is. But USU's got a big challenge on their hands to try to slow down that San Diego State offense and get them off the field. That's the big thing. Not going to turn the ball over much. Ball security, not a lot of passing in yards, but they are slinging the ball around a little bit more. But if Utah State can create some turnovers, that's going to be huge because San Diego State does not turn the ball over very much.
No, and they force takeaways like crazy. I think they have 7 of them already, Eric, if I'm not mistaken. That leads the Mountain West Conference. And so they are very ball hawking, very greedy with it, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't get beat a whole lot. And that's the biggest problem. And so you have to be really, really smart in taking care of the ball. Don't put your defense in any bad spots is really what you want to do.
No. It can be opportunistic. San Diego State can. So what kind of progress did Utah State make in the bye week to fine-tune some things where they were struggling in their secondary? How much have they shored up that run defense? And then also, on the flip side of things, USU, how well will they be able to string drives together to be able to keep themselves on the field and to limit possessions for San Diego State? Granted, if it only takes you 20 seconds to score, as long as you're getting points, doesn't matter. But that San Diego State defense is going to try to really wear out the Aggie defense. So if you could give them a breath on the sidelines, that's going to be a nice premium.
You'll take it. Yeah, absolutely. They'll take it in a heartbeat.
All right, coming up next year on the Full Court Press, we'll hear from more of the coaches and the players next hour. We'll also hear from the play-by-play voice of the San Diego State Aztecs. Ted Leitner will be joining us next, starting at about 5 o'clock. And also coming up next hour, the Full Court Press movie quiz. I think I may be able to stump you on this one, Ajay.
Ooh.
I don't think you'll get this one. I feel pretty good about this one.
Good.
It's not necessarily obscure, but you'll have a hard time with it, I'm sure. Stay tuned next hour.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The Eli Manning era in New York is done, at least for now. The Giants named rookie quarterback Daniel Jones as the starter Week 3 in Tampa, and it makes sense. If Jones is the quarterback of the future, why wait for the future? This has to be bittersweet for the team and the fans. They entered the season hoping Eli would play well and that Jones would never take the field, but they're 0-2, and Eli hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good enough to make up for a bad defense. It already seems like a long shot for the Giants to challenge the Eagles or Cowboys in the NFC East. The Jones era was coming. If it wasn't this week, it would certainly have been by midseason. We'll see what happens with Eli. No matter what his future holds, he'll always have a special place in New York's heart. Whether or not he makes the Hall of Fame, his play in 2 Super Bowl victories will never be forgotten. Now Giants fans hope Jones begins the next winning chapter in their proud football history. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.